Walk into the Grand Bazaar in Istanbul, and you are immediately hit by a wall of sound, color, and motion. With roughly 4,000 stalls and up to 400,000 visitors on a busy day, the environment is built to overwhelm your senses. The dilemma hits you the moment you slow down. You spot a hand-painted ceramic bowl you genuinely want, but you have no immediate context for its actual market value. If you are like most visitors, you probably freeze. You worry that if you ask for a price in English, you are flattening yourself as a target, guaranteeing a higher price just to avoid an awkward interaction. Pricing here is fluid, operating on the assumption that the first number is just a starting position. Vendors are professionals, reading your pace and posture. If you pay double, it is usually because you haven't signaled that you understand how the conversation is supposed to go. This matrix shows two divergent tracks of market pricing. The left is the default tourist rate, triggered when initiating a transaction in English. The right is the local ledger. Shifting to this fair baseline requires no aggression. It relies entirely on linguistic competence. Navigating this environment without overpaying comes down to a simple calculation. You weigh the cost of paying double against the immediate return on investment of 5 specific Turkish phrases. Navigating the 4,000 stalls starts with the approach. Before you touch an item, a vendor will likely step forward and ask where you are from. The default tourist input here is a liability. Visitors naturally stop walking, answer the question in English, and linger on an item before negotiating. In that 3-second exchange, the vendor has successfully profiled you. You have been slotted into the highest pricing tier because you signaled that you need hand-holding and are eager to engage. The optimized input requires restraint. Give a short nod, say a brief merhaba, and keep your feet moving. You establish a polite, warm baseline, but you remain in motion. Do not stop until you are ready. When you finally circle back to that ceramic bowl you want, you enter the second stage. You kick the item up, look at it for a few seconds, set it down gently, and initiate the pricing conversation. Asking "how much does this cost" in English puts you at a disadvantage. Instead, you look up and say 2 words, "Ne kadar." Using "ne kadar" signals that you have been here before. Because the vendor realizes you understand the market culture, the first number they throw out will likely be lower than the standard tourist quote. These 2 opening moves dictate the mathematical reality of your purchase. Acting like a veteran from the start limits the maximum markup they can try to apply before the actual negotiation even begins. The most critical pivot point happens in the few seconds after you hear their opening number. The typical tourist reaction is to act surprised or say the price is expensive in English. This fails because it communicates shock without providing a clear counteroffer. It leaves the vendor in control. The correct response is entirely stripped of emotion. You look back at the vendor and calmly say, "Çok pahalı," very expensive, then immediately offer a counter number sitting at 50 to 60% of their opening bid. This flowchart maps the trajectory of the interaction. By deploying "Çok pahalı" calmly, you force the interaction into node 3, dragging the acceptable price range down to the midpoint. When the vendor comes back with a slightly reduced number, do not accept it yet. Advance the process by looking uncertain and deploying your next phrase. Düşüneyim. Let me think about it. Pair that phrase with a physical action. You step away slowly, not as a bluff, but as a genuine exit. This space forces the vendor to reveal their absolute bottom line to salvage the sale. That combination of emotional restraint and strategic physical movement is how you separate a flexible opening bid from the hard reality of a price floor. There is a hidden social dynamic playing out alongside the math. At any point, you might encounter the ubiquitous offer of hospitality, Turkish tea. Tea is a genuine gesture, but in high-traffic shops, accepting a glass before a final price is set creates a psychological obligation. You become a guest, which makes walking away from a bad deal feel personally difficult. Maintain your leverage by politely declining early offers. A simple "teşekkür ederim, hayır," thank you, no, keeps the interaction professional until the numbers settle. Eventually, the numbers do settle. You reach stage 5, the close. Both you and the vendor hit a number you can live with. Here is where tourists make their final mistake. In many Western retail contexts, you can haggle, hear the final price, and then walk away. In Turkish market culture, doing that after a final price is reached is a serious breach of etiquette. If you are ready to buy, use the committing phrase, tamam. It translates to agreed or okay, and it functions as a binding verbal contract. Do not say it unless your wallet is coming out. Honoring that verbal contract earns the vendor's respect. It shows you aren't just there to take. You are participating in their culture by its rules. The decision to learn these phrases is a straightforward trade-off. You are weighing the comfort of speaking your native language against the financial return of participating in the local culture. This quadrant chart plots effort against financial return. Relying strictly on English requires low effort, but yields the lowest impact. This bottom left corner is the tourist tax. These 5 phrases, merhaba, ne kadar, çok pahalu, düşüneyim, tamam, take under an hour to learn, landing squarely in the high-impact top left quadrant. If the idea of haggling is stressful, you can skip the market and shop at Istanbul's fixed-price malls. But if you want the Grand Bazaar experience, the time spent learning those 5 phrases offers the highest return on investment of any pre-trip planning you will do. There is one final caveat. These phrases only work if you say them naturally. If you read them nervously off a translation app mid-negotiation, you lose the leverage you were trying to build. This is where StreetTongue comes in. The app prioritizes street-level dialect and the vocabulary required for marketplace interactions, ignoring purely academic grammar. For this specific scenario, the app's Istanbul Turkish guide gives you unlimited pronunciation scoring on every phrase we just covered. You can practice çok pahalı until it feels automatic, long before you enter the market. You can download StreetTongue on iOS or Android using the link in the description to build that muscle memory before your trip. Have you ever walked into a market and realized you were out of your depth? Drop your international haggling stories or the biggest tourist tax you accidentally paid in the comments below.